I'm back after a much needed Christmas break. I was just fucking exhausted. And I was just like, you know what? No, this year I'm actually going to do nothing, like actually nothing. Because other people who YouTube will attest to this too. Even if you've not physically got anything on, you have this kind of low level anxiety bubbling away in your brain, like, oh, what's next week's video going to be? What's the week after video going to be? And you kind of just always thinking about it, and your mind never shuts off. But this Christmas I was like, I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to not think about anything other than eating, drinking, spending time with my wife, spending time with my family, and playing video games. And it was fucking sensational. But that being said, I sat down here tonight with just no idea of what I was going to do my first video of 2022 on. And that little low-level anxiety started bubbling again. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to talk about? I'm like, fuck, I've got no ideas for any videos. I need to start coming up with some ideas. But then I thought, I'm just going to make a video with no real structure, no real point to it. I'm just going to talk a little bit about 2021, about my Christmas break, and about the future of the channel going forward. And that's it. $2021, what a fucking year for video games. We had... What did we have? 2021 was a shocker. It really was a shocker. Don't get me wrong, there were still some great games released, but by pre-pandemic standards, it was just quiet, man. Quiet. And that actually played into my decision to just kind of chill over Christmas and do nothing. See, last year I was busting my balls over my Christmas holiday to put together the VGT Game of the Year Awards and did a Christmas VGT Asks episode. And then on January 1st, I had 2 videos ready to go of all the games confirmed for 2021 and all the games expected to be coming out in 2021. But 2021 did me a really big favour in that regard, being that there was nothing to play. There was probably like less than 5 games that came out in 2021 that truly gripped me. Maybe even less than 3. And I'll talk about those in a bit, but I was just like, how the fuck am I supposed to put together a game awards show when there's no games to fill the categories? So I just didn't. So then I was like, okay, I'll start putting together the games coming out and games expected in 2022 set of videos. So I went back and watched the ones that I did last year, and I was like, fuck, so many of these were either delayed or just seemed to have fallen off the map entirely. And then I started to look at what was actually coming out, like what did have release dates, and the list was just kind of slim, and most of the things that do have release dates are either ports, collections, or remasters of games that came out years ago.
Mushroom Wars 2.
Who gives a fuck? So yeah, I was like, nah, I'm not going to do those videos either. Now, I'm still hopeful that 2022 is going to be a better year. I mean, we have Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, and Pokemon Arceus all coming out before spring, which is already a much better start to the year than 2021. If I remember rightly, we had like Hitman 3 at the beginning of January and then Monster Hunter Rise at the end of March. They were the only notable games in Q1 of last year, and I didn't get into either of them. So it was bleak. But contrary to all my rant videos, I am actually, generally speaking, a bright side kind of guy. You know, I try to find the positives in negative situations. And the positives in 2021 were the games being produced by indie devs and AA developers, games that perhaps ordinarily may have fallen in the shadow of all the big AAA experiences we were promised in 2022 that never came to fruition, and the few that did mostly sucked a big bag of dicks. I think the only AAA title that I truly loved last year was Resident Evil Village, and whilst I refuse to shit on that game, as is the case with most Resident Evil games, apart from maybe Resident Evil 4, the game was way too short. So that means that of all the hours of gaming I did across the whole of last year, I have about 8 hours of it that I owe applause to any AAA developers. It's just not good enough. I should also add that this was the first full year that next-gen consoles had been on the market. PlayStation managed to deliver a child-sized handful of next-gen titles, and Xbox managed to deliver 1.5. And the one came out in 2 parts. Is it harsh saying Forza Horizon's a half next-gen title? Is it a next-gen title? When I think of Forza, I think Forza Motorsport is like the main franchise, and Horizon's like kind of a spin-off. Well, let's say 1 3/4. Microsoft delivered 1 3/4 next-gen titles. So yeah, whilst we were let down in a big way by the corporations that are supposed to be running the show, it meant that I had to dig a little deeper for new gaming experiences last year. And I'll be honest with you, most of those games were games that didn't even come out last year. Like Final Fantasy XIV. Never thought of myself as an MMO man. Thought they were too intense, too time consuming, and too much to learn, too much to understand. Turns out, I was right. But Final Fantasy XIV gripped me anyway. I've only just finished A Realm Reborn, which is the base game, and people keep telling me that's the worst one, and that the 4 expansions are way better. But I've still fallen in love with it, so yeah, that's exciting. I played The Forest, which is like a horror survival game. Survival games tend not to hold my attention for too long, but this one kept me gripped. I think it was the horror element. It just added a level of intensity that I hadn't felt in other survival games. Maybe I'm not playing the right ones. I played Monster Boy, which was a lot of fun. I played a fantastic Metroidvania called The Messenger. You need to check that out if you haven't checked it out. It does a cool thing in the middle of the game. I won't spoil it for you. Played a lot of Slay the Spire. Played Dino Crisis, which was shit. I don't know what the fuss is all about. I don't know why it's held in such high regard. Maybe it just hasn't aged well. I played a lot of Stardew Valley with my wife, which was immensely wholesome. Oh, and I played every single fucking Sonic game. Watch that here. But anyway, yeah, so I have 2021 dive bombing to thank for getting around to playing some games that fell by the wayside for me from previous years, which is nice, I guess. There were a few games that caught my attention, though, that did come out in 2021. The first of which was Valheim. It wasn't really something that I gelled with per se, like I wasn't overly impressed with it myself, but the rest of the world went fucking mad for it for about a month, and then it disappeared as quickly as it arrived. But I was just kind of fascinated by the way that people took to it. Like, this is what happens when there's nothing else to play. Games like Valheim stepped to the forefront, and that's no disrespect to Valheim, it's just that crafting and survival games are not really my thing. But I could see why so many people loved it, and it felt good to see this small company of literally 5 people could release a game where they would probably have measured this game a success if it sold 10,000 copies in its first year, and it ended up selling 5 million copies in its first month. 5 million. Another game that I was surprisingly fond of last year was Dirt 5. I know it technically came out in 2020, but the PS5 upgrade is what came out in 2021, and I don't really play racing games all that much, but I was lucky enough to have been sent a copy of the game for free, so I kind of felt obligated to play it. But it turned out I really, really enjoyed it, especially on the PS5 with the haptic feedback. Codemasters have really gone to town on the haptics on Dirt 5. It almost feels like too much for the first 5 seconds, but then your brain starts to match up with what's on the screen, and you start literally feeling what you can see, your car's engine power, and feeling the surfaces you're driving over. It was really, really impressive. Returnal came out in April, and this was the first game of the year that really, really gripped me. I remember buying it because there was nothing else. Like, we were deep into spring and the shelves were still bare. I remember having buyer's guilt on the way home from Asda, like, did I really just spend 60 quid on this game that I know nothing about? Turns out it was the best 60 quid I spent all year, probably. And most likely one that I'd have ignored if there was more to choose from. The game's a third-person shooter, but it's a fully 3D roguelike. So the environments change every time you play it. It's procedurally generated. And when you die, you're dead. Like, you're dead. The game begins again. But it has a really clever way of preserving your progression, and it makes you want to keep playing the game, which is super important in roguelikes. These kinds of games tend to be isometrics or 2D, so it's quite impressive to see one in full 3D glory with amazing graphics. The best bit about it, though, for me, is that the enemies shoot at you in like a bullet hell kind of way, like Enter the Gungeon or Ikaruga, but in a fully 3D environment, meaning moving, dodging, cover and placement are all just as important as dealing damage. If I had have done a VGT Awards this year, there's a good chance that this would have been my game of the year for 2021. This or Resident Evil 8. What else came out last year? Oh yeah, Ratchet and Clank A Rift Apart. Visually, truly impressive. Like, playing this on PS5 in 4K 60 is genuinely awesome to look at. But to play, I mean, it's okay, it's fun for the first 3 hours or so, then you realise these guys don't get any funnier, the story doesn't get any deeper, and the gameplay just kind of repeats itself for another 10 hours or so. If you're a young child, it'll probably blow your nips off, but as a 32-year-old man, it's kind of like watching Frozen back to back for 14 hours. In May, we got Resident Evil 8, or Resident Evil Village, which was a real breath of fresh air, to be honest. It did not disappoint. It had me shitting my pants on a number of occasions. But like I said, it was just too short. It Takes Two won the actual Game of the Year for 2021, and to be honest, even though I was a little sour that it wasn't Resi 8 or Returnal, It Takes Two was actually so good. If you have a significant other, it is a must play. It is the quintessential co-op game to play with your other half. Trust me, it's so charming. And it's a lot of fun. The only reason I'm not shouting about it more is because me and Vicky played about 5 hours or so of it, and then my PC corrupted a short time later and we lost our save file. And I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to play the first 5 hours again. Skyward Sword HD Remaster came out in the summer. Played that. But then again, I also played that 6 years ago. So, yeah, same game. Looks a bit prettier. I do have really fond memories of that though, because it came out in the summer when it was piping hot. So I set the TV up outside and played most of that game in the hot tub. Splitgate is what I did in August. Although Splitgate is one of those games that came out years ago, but then suddenly people decided they liked it, like Among Us. Splitgate actually came out in 2019, but for some reason, in August 2021, we all went mad for it. It's like a mix of Quake, Halo and Portal all mashed together into one, and it's really fun. Unfortunately, for the actual Quake games, they shadow dropped Quake 1 and 2 Remastered in August 2021, and no one really gave a shit, because we were all playing Splitgate. September, I crashed a golf buggy whilst working Slam Dunk Festival and broke my arm, and I couldn't even press the buttons on my controllers, so couldn't play any games in September. But luckily it was 2021, so I only missed Deathloop, and judging by the reaction, the people who did buy Deathloop probably wished that they had broken their arm as well. One game I did miss that came out whilst I had my broken arm was Hot Wheels Unleashed. Yes, Hot Wheels Unleashed. It's got insanely good reviews and it looks fantastic. Now when someone says to you, oh, Hot Wheels Unleashed is coming out, you expect it to be some cash grab for kids, preying on non-gamer parents to buy it for the kids at Christmas because little Timmy plays with Hot Wheels and so that means he'll probably love this game, but it turns out to be a shambolic waste of money. Well, no, we were all wrong. I've not played it myself yet, I've watched it being played on Twitch and I'm definitely going to dive into it soon. It actually looks really fun, so I'll let you know how that goes. The final game that really caught my eye in 2021 was Unpacking. Now, I didn't actually play it myself, but Vicky streamed it on Twitch. Cats and crisps. So I watched her play the full thing, and my god, I thought it was going to be some innocuous cutesy game with zero depth that was just satisfying for an hour or so, but it's so much more than that, so much more. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the game actually tells a pretty deep and touching story in one of the most unique ways I've seen in forever. And if you're someone who's like late 20s, early 30s, the game's also packed with childhood nostalgia, and it's just really a fantastic indie experience. It's exactly what I love about indie game developers, when they think outside the box. Get it? Outside the box. In early December, Microsoft finally dropped Halo Infinite, or at least the campaign, the bit that I was interested in playing. And I have been playing it, but I've not quite finished it yet, and I'm thinking I'm going to put a little video together with my thoughts on that once I do finish it, so I'll save that for then. And that brings us to now, the Christmas break, the end of the Christmas break. And yeah, I got Vicky Beat Saber for Christmas, so we've been playing that. That's a fucking hell of a lot of fun.
She's been on it that long. The TV's turned itself off.
Obviously you need VR to play it, so if you're lucky enough to have a VR, that is definitely a recommendation. Beat Saber is fantastic. Vicky got me the Immortals Phoenix Rising DLCs, and I've been just glued to them over the Christmas break as well. So yeah, just before we wrap up then, I just want to talk a little bit about kind of 2022 going forward, the future of the channel, basically. Kind of my very rough plans. Those of you that know me well will know that I'm quite an ambitious person, for better or for worse. On one hand, it keeps me creative and motivated, but on the other hand, I more often than not wind up in positions where I've bitten off more than I can chew, and I'm trying to deliver too much. It meant there was times last year where a whole month would go by without a video upload. At one point there was 7 weeks that went by without me uploading a video, and that's because my foolish ass was like, yeah, I can work, I can DJ, I can be in a band, I can be a husband, and I can play every single Sonic game and review them and make an hour-long video on it. Also on E3 week, I decided to drop 9 videos in 7 days. So yeah, in like a self-review kind of way for 2021, I realised that I was kind of sporadic all over the place. And with that in mind, I've kind of tried to reevaluate my approach to YouTube over the last month or so. And I really love making YouTube content. It's been such a breath of fresh air to me, a new creative outlet in my life. And whilst I still want to make those big bombastic videos, everywhere I look, I'm told that the way to grow your channel is to be consistent. That doesn't mean I need to upload every day or even every week. The space in between the videos needs to be more consistent. So that's kind of what I'm going to try to aim for next year. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I don't know whether in practice that's going to be possible, because I'm not going to get any less busy in 2022. You know, this year I'm releasing an album with the band. I'm probably going to be touring at some point in the year as well. But ultimately what my approach is hopefully going to be is trying to be more concise with the videos and have kind of more of a regular upload schedule. One of the best things to come out of 2021 for me was building this community of friends that I've met through Twitch and through YouTube, through playing video games online, all of which are like super supportive in everything that me and Vicky do. One of which is George, who you may remember from the Minecraft Cribs video that we did last year. George is helping me out with the editing and production workload that comes with YouTube consistency, just because he's a nice fucking guy and a good friend. So that's a really positive thing for me and for the channel going forward. Hopefully that will help with the stuff that I've just been talking about. I want to bring back VGT Asks this year too. One of the things that's difficult about doing VGTS videos is that I'm kind of relying on like 6 people to send me video and audio clips, and then I've got to collate them from wherever they've been sent, and then I've got to chase the ones that haven't sent them in time. And I kind of just felt like I was becoming a nuisance a little bit to the people that were kind of doing me a favour. That's why I sort of threw the brakes on that one. But it was a shame, because they were like probably my favourite videos that I did in 2020. So I'm hoping to bring that back next year. And now they've had a year off, so I feel less guilty asking again. But if anybody fancies being in a VGT Asks video, then feel free to comment below and ask me, or message me on Instagram at VGTYaw. Put it on the screen somewhere. Also, I want to do more game reviews this year. I kind of stayed away from game reviews in the past because I wanted to try and keep them current if I was going to do them, but obviously then the game comes out and then I have to play it, and then I have to finish it, and then I have to review it, then I have to film it, then I have to edit it, and then I have to put it out. And by the time I'd done it, it was like all these other reviews are out. Plus then you've got the people who get review copies that have already had it for a couple of weeks, and they drop the reviews like the day before the game comes out. And I just felt like, what's the point in doing it? But then I remembered that I have less than 600 subs, and if I've played a game, I should review it, regardless of whether it came out a week ago or 10 years ago. So yeah, anyway, I've rambled enough now. Welcome to 2022. Thank you so much to everybody that tunes into my videos. It honestly means the world to me. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.